There's maybe 3 things that get new people into vinyl. Maybe it's your parents' old record collection, you get that box gear, the box albums, you put it all together and maybe it actually works, and you're just hooked from that point on. Or maybe it's the person who wandered into a record store by accident looking for a restroom, they saw some shiny objects, and well, they went down the path of new hi-fi gear and, the never-ending amount of albums that you can buy. And then maybe it's just someone handing them a turntable and saying, just try it. And the FiiO TT11 is basically that third option in a box for $175. What's up, everyone? If you're new here, welcome. I just try to keep it real on this channel. No gatekeeping, no convincing you that you need a $5,000 rig to enjoy music. I enjoy everything from the budget side to the extreme high end. I think it's all good, and I think there's a space for all of it in this hobby. If that's the kind of channel that speaks to you, where you want to see gear across all price points, send a subscription this way, join the community. And today we're going to look at the FiiO TT11. It's a fully automatic turntable at $175. This is not a deep audiophile teardown. It's more like a should you buy this and what are you actually getting conversation. If you own a Rega Plane R3 and you're here looking for a cartridge alignment deep dives, I would say that's the wrong video. But if you're here trying to figure out whether vinyl is for you, you're looking for a good entry point, or you're trying to get someone else into it, looking for a gift, that kind of thing, stay with me here. There's a lot to like here. The TT11 is FiiO's entry point, sitting below the TT13 in their lineup. The TT11 comes in cheaper on paper, so you'd expect some trade-offs. And there are some, but the hardware comparison is actually more interesting than you'd think. The 11 has a standard head shell mount, and that means that you can swap the entire cartridge body when you're ready for an upgrade. The TT13 doesn't have that. You can only replace the stylus on the 13, not the whole cartridge. So the cheaper table actually has the better upgrade path here. And if you look further, the 11 has anti-skate and an adjustable counterweight. The 13 has neither of these. And that matters because proper tracking force, that's going to protect your records. And if you do end up doing a cartridge swap, it's going to give you the best chance of that sounding the way it's supposed to. On the 13, you're just going to be locked into what FiiO set from the factory, which is a good entry-level setup. It just doesn't allow for any changes. Now, to be fair, the 13 does have a more solid construction, a better Bluetooth codec too, if that interests you at all, aptX HD versus SBC on the 11. So it's not like the 11 beats it across the board, but in terms of what you can do with this in the long term, the 11 is the smarter platform as far as tunability and upgrade paths. So the 11 is going to ship with an Audio-Technica AT3600L. That's a standard budget moving magnet cartridge that's lived in entry tables for what kind of feels like forever. It works, it's not pretending to be something it isn't, and when you want more out of it, you can actually just swap this one out. But honestly speaking, if you're shopping at this price point, it's a pretty decent cart and you might be perfectly happy with what they give you right here. On to the whole fully automatic thing. And this is where the 11 actually wins a lot of people over. Fully automatic means the tone arm positions itself at the start of the album when you press play, and it lifts and returns on its own when it gets to the end. There's no manual cueing, no nervously lowering a needle onto your $40 pressing. For some people, that is a big thing. They second guess themselves and they're very cautious about lowering these. This just kind of takes all that worry out of it, I guess. If you've been doing this for years, that's likely going to sound like a minor comfort feature. But for someone new to vinyl, it might actually be a big deal to them. It drops the anxiety. It also makes this table a good fit for like the bedroom, the office, anywhere you just want to put a record on and not treat it like some sort of grand procedure. Think more so like the casual setups in this case. And I'd have to say the most direct comparison here is the Audio-Technica AT LP60 XBT. The 11 comes in at a lower price point and adds the swappable cartridge on top. There's likely going to be some other differences here between these, but that's the one thing that sticks out the most. If you have any interest in swapping cartridges, that's one of the major selling points for the FiiO. Onto the connectivity. The phono preamp is built in and switchable. You can run this straight into powered speakers or a standard receiver using the internal preamp. Or you can bypass it altogether and feed this into a separate phono stage, if you ever decide to go the upgrade route. Basically, this isn't going to paint you into a corner as far as the connections go. And like I mentioned earlier, Bluetooth is on board too, SBC codec, so it's not like a premium grade wireless, but it does work. Pair it with your Bluetooth speakers, if you want to do something really simple and you're going to be up and running in no time. I don't almost always go the wired route personally, but if this is being used as more of like a casual player, I guess I get the allure of having more connection options. So how does this one sound? I think it's pretty simple. The sound is warm, but there is less high-end detail retrieval at this price point. And that's just the budget reality here. But if you throw in a good pressing, I do have to say that it sounds really good. Like, I think a lot of people would be really happy with it. The analog warmth is there, it doesn't sound thin, and it doesn't sound harsh. If you're comparing it to a $600 table with a better cartridge and tone arm, you're likely going to hear some differences, right? I mean, there is a ceiling, and that's just the reality. The stock AT3600L does its job, but it just won't resolve the finest details in a really busy mix. But what the TT11 does is give you real vinyl playback. This is not a toy, it's not a suitcase system. It's a legitimate table that sounds better than its price on a good pressing, especially once it's paired with decent speakers or powered monitors. This isn't going to be the end-all be-all in sound quality, but it's also not meant to be. It's a very good table for under $200, and it's going to be really hard to find something for less that beats it out, unless you're going maybe like the used market or vintage, but that can come with its own problems, like does it actually work? Is the stylus okay? Just all these different condition things, where this just has you up and running in basically 5 minutes. And as for the exterior, the chassis wood, well, MDF with a laminate on top. That possibly helps with resonances, but I would have to say that it's a bit light to do much there, but it does help to carry the vintage vibe of the table. The platter's fine, no complaints there, and the dust cover does its job, and it actually looks pretty good doing it. When you take this out of the box, you're gonna notice that it's a complete toolless setup. The hinges just press in, and that's actually one of the only things you have to assemble when you pull it out of the box, beyond just putting the platter on and connecting the belt. This turntable honestly takes longer to take it out of the box and remove all the plastic than it does to have it up and running. And I guess I can't leave this review without showing the color changing options as well. Maybe it's sort of a gimmick, but it is well executed and it can add some fun to this player. I don't mind it at all here. I want to touch lightly on the cartridge upgrade path because it might be one of the reasons that you're looking at the 11 over some of the other similarly priced tables. The head shell mount and adjustable counterweight means you can drop in something like an AT VM95E and actually hear a real difference. That is going to be a real upgrade and not just a spec change, but it is going to cost about half as much as the table, but at least you have some options if you want to push this forward down the road. The reality is most tables at this price just won't give you the combination of a swappable cartridge plus tracking force adjustment. And without the counterweight, a cartridge swap is pretty much guesswork, and I'd probably not suggest you to do it. So the TT11 does actually give you some real options here. So what are you giving up here? At $175, it's kind of expected, but it's still important to note these. The Bluetooth is SBC only, not aptX or any of the other popular choices. It's very functional, but it's kind of a lower tier. It's also not a big deal for myself, as I would always be using the wired connection. And as for the detail retrieval, from that stock cartridge, it kind of is what it is at this price point. It's a starting point, and it is a good starting point, but honestly, it's going to have its limits. And lastly, you could add some sorbethane feet to help with vibrations over the stock feet offerings, but I would suggest that on pretty much every table. I'll link some of those options down in the description if you want to check out just some of the ones I've used in the past. So all that being said, none of this is a surprise at this price point, and none of it changes what this table is good at. Who's this one for? I'd have to say for the first-time vinyl buyers, people who want to get into records without the learning curve, maybe someone buying a setup for a college kid or a younger sibling, or possibly just like a second table for the bedroom or any place that's more of like a casual listen. It's also a really smart gift. Hand this to someone with a few records and they're going to be up and running in 20 minutes, and they're likely going to be really impressed. At $175 with a swappable cartridge, a switchable phono preamp, Bluetooth, and full automation, there's not much else out there that's doing all of these at this price bracket. And FiiO put together a tight little package here. So the TT11 is not the table you buy when you're deep in the vinyl hobby and you're chasing every last detail. This is more like the table you buy when you want to start the hobby, or you want to help someone else get started in it without making it complicated or without some grand budget. Catch you guys on the next one. Please drop a comment, a like, even a subscription if you're new here. Lots of great products coming up, and it wouldn't be possible without the community. Take care. Talk soon. Later.